Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
Selling a business is not for the faint-hearted, as most people who've been through the process will probably tell you. There's a lot to consider about the business and about you, the owner, and there will be difficult questions to answer. From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Your impartiality about the value of your business will be at stake, as will your thoughts about how long it's going to take to find the right buyer. Seek advice, says expert John Blight, consultant to the Financial Advisory Division at Mazars. As John tells Heather Dawson, you really can't go past good planning to build up the business for sale.
I think a key to growing a business and ultimately creating a valuable and saleable business is in the planning. And planning is very much a continuous process. I'm not saying that a business owner can't do a lot of that critical planning aspects by themselves or in conjunction with their own executive team, but business owners can lose their impartiality about their own business and look through rose-coloured glasses and therefore miss key aspects or risks of their business strategy that need to be addressed and mitigated. Therefore, I highly recommend that a lot of the business planning be done in conjunction with experts who can assist with building on achievable growth strategies that have some clearly defined measures of success, as well as a clear understanding of what's needed to achieve a successful outcome. And then, very importantly, continually reflecting on this. I think external people, be they board members, advisory committee members, simply appropriately skilled business consultants, are there to both challenge and support the merits of both the original acquisition or startup strategy and the associated growth strategy to add that element of realism to the conversation so that the business owner and the management teams are really getting that not half glass full response and therefore being properly challenged in terms of their thought processes. And that's really important because if you get that right, that's very valuable in time to everybody. When buying into a business, you always need to think about how you're going to exit that business or create liquidity. Because there's no point, I believe, in buying a business which is unsaleable or has no future capital value unless you have a clear idea how to pivot that business in another direction by embracing new processes or technologies or indeed creating new products based on future demand rather than the current or past demand from your current and importantly your future customers. Critical to the successful growth of the business and ultimately making it attractive to allow for future liquidity is managing the risks of the business. And the key risk is how to future-proof the business to make it attractive to customers now and over time taking into account customer and market trends. The global pandemic that we're experiencing presently is a great example of looking at how some businesses have accelerated their growth, whereas others have unfortunately struggled. Those that embrace change have been successful in growing during these uncertain times, with examples including some of Australia's retail businesses who have embraced selling using technology.
That brings us to the importance of, strategic planning and continuous performance monitoring, as you've been talking about.
I think that's right, Heather. As a business owner, an important consideration is being able to define what success looks like. This needs to be meaningful and, importantly, measurable, not just some motherhood statement, as it can be prone to be. So once that's properly defined, plans can be developed to achieve that success. Multiple options should always be considered. For example, having a preferred pathway to achieve your growth strategy, along with a plan B, plan C, etc. Because fundamental to that is giving consideration to the level of investment that's required to achieve those plans. And then drilling down from that is really understanding, from that level of investment that I require, how can I obtain that investment funding? Is it going to be through a repatriation of the profits that I'm deriving out of the business? Is it going to be through obtaining more debt or going and searching for more equity? All of those are important fundamentals to it. And I think that then in being able to measure performance, the business owner needs to consider and establish appropriate KPIs that need to be set and monitored and continually assessed and refined. Important to this as well, I think, is budgets and forecasting, both for the short term and the long term, because they're important to understanding the prospects of the business and achieving that end goal.
Okay, well, you have reached the decision that you're going to sell. How do you then optimise the business performance leading up to that point where you actually have the business on the market?
Well, obviously, we've just touched on important aspects like setting KPIs, budgets and forecasting for both the short term and the long term. In optimising the business performance, it's important to analyse what that information is telling us and then to be able to reflect on all of those business drivers and levers that we have available. And going through what I would call some what-if scenarios. What if I put more emphasis on this lever? What if I reduced emphasis on this lever? What if I added additional levers? It's a bit like, I'd say, spinning plates. You need to be continually monitoring every aspect of the business to derive the maximum efficiency across the whole business. And I'd say, probably in addition to developing strategies to grow and assess the business performance, the most saleable businesses are those that operate effectively without the business owner involved. Those businesses have transitioned from what I would refer to as an owner-operator model, where all or a majority of the goodwill and value in the business sits with that individual, to businesses that have morphed into those that are more independent in their setup, have formal boards, a CEO, an executive management team, good systems and good governance processes.
Okay. Now, next question, John, though, is timing. How do you make decisions around the appropriate time to sell?
I guess there's many aspects to reflect upon when coming to the conclusion when's the right time to sell. Obviously, we've talked about having a clear business plan and strategy. They're fundamental to assisting in deciding when it's the right time to sell. Another important aspect is understanding what's going on in the market itself, recognising and understanding how consumer demand is changing and what that means for your business, and that's a very important aspect as well. Think of cameras and how they've changed in function over the years, and if camera manufacturers didn't identify and recognise the need to change, what would that have done to their businesses? A couple of other things that maybe not have instantly considered, but I think are very relevant. One is it still fun? This might sound like something a little silly, but if work is a chore and not inspiring, then no doubt the business will be suffering from your lack of enthusiasm for the business. So unless you can take a break and re-energise, then maybe that's a signal that it's time to move on. And the last thing is what's next. Sometimes letting go is difficult because the business owner hasn't actually planned for what's next, and therefore the default position is to continue to operate the business. That isn't the answer. Part of the planning, this whole evolution of planning, is understanding how much money you'd like to have to be able to comfortably transition to the next stage of your life, be that retirement or finding that next business opportunity.
Difficult questions to ask yourself sometimes, isn't it?
Very much so. That's right. That's why they're not sort of normally front of mind, unfortunately.
Well, do you have any final points then, John, regarding getting your business sale ready?
I think there's a few concluding comments that I'd like to make is that when you are buying into or setting up a business, you really need to be able to answer why you're doing this and how do you grow and develop to ensure that you can exit the business in the future. Planning should be part of your business as usual processes. It's fundamental. As a business owner, the key to successful value accretion is to identify all of the business risks and to determine how best to mitigate those risks. And then don't be afraid to rely on and embrace the use and support of experts to both challenge and support your strategy to ensure that you're not looking at the business through rose-coloured glasses.
That was John Blight, consultant to the Financial Advisory Division at Mazars. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.